At 07:12, the sun was already hanging high above the pine line, baking the cracked asphalt of Fort Gray's outer parking lot. A battered Silverado creaked into a space near the depot, frame sagging slightly to the right. The engine ticked as it cooled. No base sticker on the windshield, no plates suggesting clearance, just a vehicle forgotten by time, like its driver. The door opened with a low groan. A woman stepped out. Civilian attire standard issue for a quiet life. Khaki trousers, dark green jacket, sleeves faded and edges frayed. Her boots, dusty and worn smooth at the heel, whispered across the gravel rather than stomped. She moved like she'd done this before, 100 times, in 100 different places. No one greeted her. No one needed to. She didn't move like a guest. Her posture was straight, but not stiff. She didn't strut. She flowed, hands at her sides. No phone, no coffee, just a folded paper, tucked under one arm. Her hair, streaked gray, was pulled tight into a no-nonsense bun. Not a hair out of line. The gate sergeant barely looked up from his clipboard. He nodded her through after a glance at the paper. Didn't ask her name. Didn't ask where she was going. She didn't offer. Inside. Fort Gray buzzed with Monday rhythm. Cadence echoed from a distant formation. An old HMMWV rolled past. Diesel coughing. 2 privates jogged by, shirts dark with sweat. She watched them for half a second, eyes narrowing just slightly, tracking angles, not faces. She paused outside the depot doors, adjusted the strap of her satchel. The movement revealed the faint outline of a patch on her left shoulder, sun-bleached, half unstitched, unreadable. The kind of thing you don't get at the surplus store. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The air was dry, overly cooled, shelves stacked with camo netting, MREs, hydration rigs, gloves. She walked straight to the sign-in desk. No hesitation. Passed by 3 lieutenants mid-conversation. Didn't glance. Didn't slow. The young man behind the counter looked up and flinched a little, unsure why. Something about her eyes. He offered a hesitant ma'am, which she acknowledged with a short nod. She slid a form across the counter, neatly folded. No creases except the intentional ones. As he opened it, she stepped back, arms behind her back, feet shoulder-width apart. Her stance wasn't civilian. Nothing about her was. She didn't speak. She waited, eyes steady, scanning exits, then corners, then ceiling vents. Not paranoid. Practiced. Across the depot, a forklift beeped in reverse. A sergeant barked instructions at someone off frame. Behind her, the lieutenant started laughing. She didn't turn. The jacket stayed still, but the patch just barely visible in the fluorescent flicker seemed to absorb the noise. She waited. Not because she had to, because she chose to, because she'd done worse, in worse places, and because waiting wasn't new, not to someone who moved like that. At 07:38, Fort Gray was already in motion. The kind of motion that never really stopped, only slowed overnight before surging again with the first whistle and bark. The sun pushed through low-hanging clouds, cooking the Georgia humidity into something thick enough to chew. Dust settled in the creases of uniforms before morning chow had a chance to digest. Engines growled awake across the motor pool. 2 LMTVs idled in convoy-ready lines, lights flicking on as junior NCOs shouted names and instructions. Nearby, a deuce-and-a-half backfired, drawing a quick curse from its driver and laughter from a squad of specialists passing in formation. Boots hit pavement in rhythmic succession. 8-man fire teams moved in tight cadence, voices rising sharp and clean, left, right, left again. Sweat already stained the backs of tan T-shirts. One sergeant adjusted his patrol cap and barked something about rifle cleaning and accountability. The voice echoed between concrete buildings. Routine. A coffee truck set up outside the battalion HQ. Steam mixed with the acrid scent of diesel and a faint trace of pine coming off the tree line. Overhead. A Black Hawk circled once, low, before banking toward the airfield. No one looked up. Noise was normal. Disruption was suspicious. By 0747, the supply depot was running at full hum. Soldiers cycled in and out, arms loaded with gear bags and hydration bladders. The building itself, blocky, beige, air-conditioned to the edge of frostbite, housed everything from spare chem lights to modular sleep systems. Rows of shelves ran floor to ceiling. Folded camo netting, stacks of MRE cases, pallets of ammo cans, shrink-wrapped and tagged with supply codes. Inside, 3 second lieutenants stood near the footwear rack, each holding a clipboard they weren't using, fresh OCPs, clean boots, rank tabs that hadn't known field mud. They looked like they'd walked out of an ROTC catalog. The tallest, name tape, Myers, adjusted the collar on his blouse like it itched. He scanned the room with practiced detachment before his eyes landed on her, the woman standing near the hydration rigs, quietly scanning a requisition list. He grinned. Didn't know Halloween came early, he said, just loud enough for the others to catch. Hensley, shorter, sharper featured, snorted into his energy drink. Goodwill cosplay, he said, nudging Myers with an elbow. Bet she thinks she's starring in Lone Survivor. She looks like someone's retired aunt who wandered in, added Taurus, the third, glancing quickly at the woman's jacket. What's that patch? Can't even read it. They leaned in as they spoke, voices low but not low enough, not subtle, just careful. It was clear they didn't expect her to hear or didn't care if she did. Probably picked that up in a flea market. Hensley continued. Slap it on an old jacket and pretend you were Delta. His smirk held. Seen it before. Stolen valor types. Always have a scar and a story nobody can check. Behind them, a young corporal tightened the drawstring on a duffel and stepped aside, eyebrows raised. He didn't say anything, just kept his head down and moved on. The woman stood still, jacket zipped halfway, one gloved hand holding a clipboard, the other lightly brushing the edge of a hydration pack. Her head didn't turn, shoulders didn't flinch. She wasn't frozen. She was calculating, watching shelves, measuring space, breathing slow. Myers tilted his head. Think she's waiting to get recognized? He asked. Waiting for someone to salute her. Ask what it was like in Nam. Taurus chuckled. She's got that whole forgotten war hero vibe. Bet she's told a few bar stories that started with back in the sandbox. Hensley leaned against the shelf, arms crossed. If she really served, why no CA key? Why no patch we can read? You know what this is. Attention bait. They nodded among themselves. Mutual reinforcement. Rank had given them confidence. Inexperience had made it brittle. Near the front desk, the private checking inventory stopped typing. His fingers hovered above the keyboard. He glanced toward the woman, then back at the lieutenants. The woman moved, not quickly, just enough to step around a low stack of crates and head down another aisle. Her boots made no sound on the rubberized floor. She didn't rush, didn't acknowledge. Clipboard still in hand. Myers scoffed under his breath. See that classic? Avoids eye contact. Keeps the mystery. She'll probably leave some made-up war memoir on a chair. Hensley muttered. Claim she knew a SEAL team. Torres nodded. Or she'll vanish after chow and we'll all get a mass email about operational security. They laughed again, light and easy, like it was all a game. Behind them, another staff sergeant emerged from the back with a parts bin and glanced in their direction. He said nothing, just dropped the bin on the intake counter and disappeared behind the storage cages. The woman reached the gloves rack, scanned sizes, and selected a pair. Her motions were methodical, efficient. She checked the stitching with a thumb, held the glove to her palm, dropped it into her pack. No wasted effort. She paused again, this time near a column of folded tarp bundles. Her head turned just slightly. Peripheral scan, exit signs, corner mirrors, no visible tension, just preparation. The depot lights flickered once as the HVAC kicked into a higher cycle. Fluorescence buzzed louder, drowning the room in white noise. Outside, a truck backfired. Inside, nobody looked twice, not at her, not at the officers, not at the slow build of something unspoken. At 0803, the depot felt like any other Monday. And yet, something sat beneath it, waiting. At 0811, the woman stepped to the counter. The private manning the desk was maybe 19. His uniform was crisp. His haircut was still too short. He stood when she approached, out of habit, more than respect. "Morning. Ma'am," he said, voice light. "Got your paperwork." She handed him the folder. 3 pages, neatly clipped. Signature from a logistics major. Authorization stamp, clean and current. The private scanned it once, then again. He tapped the keyboard. Brow furrowed. "Says you need active duty clearance. Or a unit code." He glanced up. Hesitation in his eyes now. One hand hovered near the radio. He wasn't sure what to do next. She said nothing. Just waited. "I might have to get my supervisor," he added. "He's at briefing." From across the aisle, the lieutenants had noticed. Myers was already moving. He arrived with a practiced smile, the kind built in classrooms, not combat zones. "Everything all right here. Collins." His tone carried authority, but none of the weight. The private hesitated. "Paperwork signed, sir, but the system won't push it through. Needs a manual override." Myers turned to her, didn't ask permission. Took the folder and flipped through it like he was reading a menu. "Looks official," he said, "but so do most fakes." He held the top page up to the light. No barcode, no watermark. "Who signed this again?" He pointed at the major's name. "Easy to forge, if you know the formatting." "I've seen worse." She didn't respond. No shift in stance, no defensive body language, just waited. Myers smiled again. "Don't take it personal. We just get a lot of these. People looking for a free pair of boots or a cool jacket, especially around training cycles." He turned to the private. "Better safe than sorry. Right. We let this one go through and suddenly we're passing out inventory to anyone who can use a printer." The private looked between them. He wasn't sure who to believe. His fingers tapped at the keyboard again, softer this time. "I can't override the lock without a code." "Sir?" "Then don't," Myers said. "She can come back after 0900 when commands open." The woman reached for the folder, took it back without a word. She moved to the bench along the rear wall, sat down slowly, not from pain, from patience. The bench was metal, cold. The air conditioning had teeth. Her jacket didn't help. She folded the paperwork on her lap, adjusted the strap on her bag, then waited. Behind the counter, Collins stood straighter. He kept typing, but slower. His eyes flicked toward her twice. Myers didn't leave. He lingered by the scanner, watching her, half expecting a protest. When none came, he shrugged and walked off, his voice rising again in casual conversation with the others. "She'll be gone in an hour," he said. "Probably off to sell that jacket on eBay." They laughed. The depot kept humming. Shelves rattled. A forklift beeped. Labels printed. Gear was logged in and out. The woman sat still, jacket sleeves tucked, boot heels flat. She didn't belong. That was the point. And she didn't correct them. That was the mistake. At 0817, the depot noise had settled into a routine hum. Boxes moved. Radios crackled. A supply clerk argued with a printer that refused to cooperate. Near the boot display, the lieutenants regrouped, confident, comfortable. Myers leaned on a crate of hydration bladders. "You see that patch?" Hensley glanced over, lowered his voice just enough to pretend it wasn't public. "Can't even tell what it used to be. Looks like claw marks, or wings, or both. Probably made it herself." Torres said, "Sharpie and imagination. She's waiting for someone to ask." Myers added, "That's the trick. Wear something vague. Let people guess. Works better than claiming Delta outright." They chuckled again. No real cruelty in the tone. Just the smirk of men who assumed they knew everything worth knowing. "She probably tells people she served under SOCOM," Hensley said. "One of those deep black ops units. Nothing traceable. Perfect cover. Ghost group." Torres nodded. "Zero records. But lots of stories wanna..." "That's how they do it," Myers said. "They act mysterious. Scar on the neck. Patch nobody can ID. Say just enough to make people wonder." Hensley tapped a finger against his water bottle. "Wait for someone to say, 'Thank you.'" That's the whole hustle. The woman didn't move. She remained seated on the bench, hands folded on the clipboard, one foot crossed over the other, not tense, not relaxed, just waiting. At 0820, a civilian contractor entered from the rear corridor, rolling a hand truck stacked with plastic crates. He moved fast, focused, turning corners without slowing. No wasted motion, probably former enlisted. He passed the bench. His eyes flicked toward her. Kept going. Then stopped. He looked again. Not at her face. At her shoulder. At the patch. His body locked. Just for a second. Like someone had grabbed him by the spine. No sound. No words. Then he turned. Walked the hand truck straight into the back storage area. Disappeared. Faster than he needed to. The lieutenants didn't see it. Still talking. Still amused by the idea of fake veterans and conspiracy patches. "She's got that look," Torres said. "Like if you challenged her, she'd say it's classified." My dad had a guy like that at the VFW. Claimed he served in Laos. Turned out he was motor pool in Fort Sill. She'll drop something like, "If I told you, I'd have to kill you," Myers said. And then pretend she's joking. Laughter. More subdued now. Not everyone around was joining in. The woman shifted slightly. Adjusted the strap on her bag. Her jacket opened just enough for the patch to catch the light. It wasn't clear. Not readable. But something about it pulled at memory. Like a shape seen in smoke. 2 rows down, a staff sergeant paused mid-sentence while logging new inventory. His pen stayed in the air longer than needed. Then he blinked and went back to writing. The depot noise continued, but thinner now, edges fraying. At 0823, the woman didn't move. Still watching the floor in front of her, still waiting. The patch stayed where it was, but its presence was beginning to shift the room. At 0826, the depot doors hissed open. No fanfare, no announcement. Just a shift in air pressure, a momentary pause in background noise. Boots stepped onto tile. Not hurried, not casual, purposeful. Combat OCPs. Sleeves rolled above the wrist, revealing faded tattoo lines and tan bands layered by deployment. No ribbons, no flair. Just time-marked service. A name tape. Reyes. The rank tab 1 silver star. Brigadier General Malcolm Reyes moved with stillness. Not quiet. Still. Like a man used to noise, who no longer had to chase it. He scanned the room with a glance, then focused on the bench. The woman didn't move, didn't look up, He crossed the depot in less than 20 steps. Each one measured, eyes forward. Bystanders didn't recognize him at first, not until he was already inside the perimeter. Then, the lieutenant saw him. Hensley's spine straightened. Torres blinked twice. Myers froze with one hand on a storage crate. Reyes stopped in front of the bench. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be the woman raised her eyes, just once. Reyes wasn't looking at her face. He was looking at the worn shape on her shoulder, the one that had gone unnoticed by most. Unreadable, but not to him. "Where'd you serve?" he asked. She paused. Then, flatly, Echo. Started at Black Dune. Finished Crimson Ridge. The words dropped like stone into still water. No explanation. No embellishment. Behind them. The lieutenants exchanged glances. The names meant nothing to them. Sounded like fiction. Or worse code for something real they'd never heard of. Reyes didn't blink. He stepped closer. His boots scuffed slightly on the tile. "You ran interference in Sector 4 during Ridge." She nodded. "Once. 6-man insertion. Night op. Low profile. You went in without air cover, am I?" Another nod. "We were pinned above the draw," he said. Quieter now. 3 vehicles, 57 personnel, 1 medevac bird en route. Enemy on 3 ridgelines. The depot had gone quiet. The forklift stopped. Even the radio chatter at the intake desk cut off. Myers stepped back half a pace. Hensley's hand went to his pocket, then thought better of it. Reyes looked down at her. Not in judgment. In memory. "You came through the ravine. Drew fire. Took pressure off the north slope." "Yes," she said. 3 minutes. Bought us exfil window." "Yes." He stared at the patch again. 519th Echo Response Group. He said, "Most people don't say the number out loud." She replied. "They don't know it exists. They're not supposed to." She stood now, smoothly, like her body remembered movement better than rest. Reyes didn't flinch. He turned his head slowly, scanning the depot. "Who's in charge?" A sergeant major stepped from the office hallway. Sturdy, square frame. Looked like he hadn't smiled since the Clinton administration. "Sir," he said, voice crisp. Reyes gestured to the woman. "This is Sergeant First Class Trujillo. Echo Response. Operation Black Dune. Crimson Ridge. Full gear issue. No questions. Now." The sergeant major didn't argue. His eyes fell to the patch. Not recognition. Just reverence. "Understood. Sir." Reyes turned to the lieutenants. Didn't speak, just looked. That was enough. The depot stayed silent. No one asked how. No one said thank you. Some knew. Some didn't. Didn't matter. Reyes faced her again, eyes steady. "You need anything else?" "No." He nodded. Barely. Then stepped aside. Not because she asked. Because he owed. At 08:29, the depot remained still. General Reyes didn't move for several seconds. Then he spoke, voice low and direct. "October 15th, 2011. Crimson Ridge. Outside Kandahar. Call sign breakwater convoy was hit at 0607. 2 IEDs. Primary route compromised." He didn't check notes. Didn't need to. Convoy had 3 vehicles. 1 MRAP. 2 up-armored Humvees. 6 critical wounded. We lost comms with air. UAV diverted. Apaches grounded for weather. The sergeant major didn't interrupt. No one did. They came over the ridge on R6. Fire from the tree line. RPGs. Small arms. No cover. Reyes paused. Looked at her. Echo response inserted at 0615. Through the East Ravine. 3-man fire team. No ISR. No air support. No QRF. She nodded once. That was all. "You pulled fire off the northern flank," he said. "Gave us 90 seconds to move the wounded." 78, she replied. Reyes blinked. Just once. I saw one of you go down, he said. Corporal Reese. KIA on approach. The words had no edge, no sorrow, just fact. You pulled us out. No one briefed us before. No one debriefed us after. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Back at Bragg, Reyes continued. They filed it under Ghostwalker. That was the public tag. Nothing about Echo made it into the records. She kept her eyes on his. We were compartmentalized. No serials. No chain of custody. No after action. Reyes nodded. We weren't supposed to know your name. But I saw the patch. Just once. Same one. He looked around the room. Echo response never existed. But we lived because they did. She said nothing. Reyes turned to the sergeant major. I want her requisition filled. No forms, no codes, full override. Roger that. Sir, effective immediately. Reyes added. Standing directive. Any Echo personnel requesting gear, no questions. Understood. Reyes looked back at her. His tone changed. Barely. We never said thank you. She didn't blink. We never asked. Then she turned, walked back to the bench. She never looked back. At Inju 833, General Reyes shifted his weight, the movement barely noticeable. His eyes cut to the counter. Private, he said. The young man at the terminal straightened. Sir, fulfill her requisition. Now. Yes. Sir. His voice cracked on the second syllable. He didn't ask for the paperwork. He didn't ask for clearance. Just typed. Hard and fast. Function keys snapped under his fingers. The override screen blinked twice, then turned green. The requisition logged complete. The sergeant major gestured to a corporal behind the cage wall. Issue Station 1. Standard boots. Size 8. Hydration rig. Gloves. Roger that. They moved. Not rushed. Efficient. Like a drill they'd trained for but never expected to run. Hensley took a step back. Torres found something fascinating in the floor tiles. Myers stood like he'd forgotten how to shift his weight. No one spoke. The corporal returned with the gear. New, unissued, labels intact. He placed each item on the counter, one at a time. Boots, hydration pack, gloves, duct tape, no commentary. She stepped forward, checked the boots first. Quick scan. Fit looked right. Hydration bladder was clean, still sealed. Everything was standard issue. Nothing extra. She packed it herself. Moved with economy. The way people move when every motion costs time. The gloves went last. She looked once at the private behind the terminal. Not a smile. Not approval. Just a nod. Measured. He swallowed. Nodded back. Behind her. The depot resumed breathing. A forklift restarted. The buzz of a label printer picked up near the back wall, but it was quieter now. Adjusted. Reyes stepped to her side. No words. Just proximity. No one questioned why a general would escort someone to the exit. Not anymore. She slung the gear bag over one shoulder, tucked the gloves under her arm. Nothing left behind. As she passed the lieutenants, none met her eyes. She didn't slow. The patch on her shoulder caught the light again. A threadbare ghost. The kind you don't talk about. The kind you follow without asking. At 0839, the woman reached the door. Boots in one hand. Bag over her shoulder. She didn't pause. Didn't turn. Behind her. Footsteps caught up. Not rushed, but deliberate. Ma'am. She stopped. Lieutenant Myers stood a few feet back. His cap was off. Hands clasped behind his back, like he was reporting in. His voice low. I wanted to say, I mean what I said earlier. He trailed off. Reset. I didn't know. She looked at him. Not hard. Not soft. Just looked. He shifted once. glanced at the door, then back. I just wanted to apologize. He said, "You didn't deserve that. It was unprofessional, disrespectful. I'm sorry." She didn't speak. He took a breath, stood straighter. "You earned more than that. I should have asked." Her eyes stayed on his face. Then she said it. "You didn't ask. Nothing else." He froze. She stepped past him. No anger, no dismissal, just movement, purposeful. He didn't follow, didn't speak again, just stood there. In the silence that comes, when you realize respect can't be retroactive. At 08:43, the door hissed open. She stepped into the sun. The heat met her like a wall, same as earlier. Georgia didn't cool. The depot door closed behind her with a soft click. General Reyes walked beside her. No words for a full 10 paces. Boots on gravel. One set light, the other steady. She adjusted the strap of her bag, shifted weight from one leg to the other. The right knee still gave a slight hitch. He noticed, didn't mention it. They crossed the narrow lot. A Humvee rolled past on the outer road, brake lights flashing. Far off, cadence drifted from another company in formation. The truck sat where she'd left it. Paint, sun-faded. One headlight slightly fogged. Reyes paused near the bumper, looked at her without turning. "We've got a joint op next month," he said. She didn't answer right away. He continued. "Civilian training detachment. Real scenario. Not PowerPoint. Could use someone who's run live interference." She looked at him. Neutral. "You think they'd listen?" "Eventually," he said. "Might be good for them." She gave a short nod. It wasn't a yes, wasn't a no. He didn't push. She opened the truck door, tossed the gear into the passenger seat. Boots went behind the seat back. She left the window cracked. Heat was still rising off the dash. Reyes stepped back. Not far. Just enough to give space. She turned once more. Hand on the door frame. "I'll think about it." He didn't smile. Just gave the same nod she had. Good. She climbed in. The truck started on the second turn. A low rumble. Old but reliable. She pulled away. Slow. Gravel kicked behind the rear tires. No hurry, no wave. He watched until she cleared the corner, then turned, heading back toward the depot. Inside, things had changed. Nothing official, but the air was different. The kind of shift that doesn't need paperwork. By 12 mile hour, the story would reach the mess hall. By evening, someone would be searching archived operations by nickname. They wouldn't find much, but they'd talk. She wouldn't. And that was enough. Some people walk into a room, and no one notices. No medals, no titles, no ceremony, just quiet purpose. Have you ever watched someone get dismissed because they didn't look the part? Because they didn't speak up? Because they didn't wear their past on their sleeve? Sometimes, the people who've done the most say the least. And maybe that's why we miss them. Or worse, why we doubt them. But what if we didn't? What if we learned to ask before assuming? What if we treated silence not as absence, but as a different kind of presence? There are units that never make headlines. Missions that never show up in books. And the people who carried them out. They still carry them. If this story moved you even just a little, let us know. Leave a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Share this with someone who values quiet strength, who understands that respect isn't earned through noise. We don't need applause, but sometimes recognition matters, even if it comes late, even if it's just one person noticing. Thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more stories about the ones history forgets, but we shouldn't.